Okay, greetings and peace, everyone. My name is Neo, and I'm here to give some info to the people. Another lecture, quick one, right after my third one. This will be my fourth one right here, and this fourth one is, I really don't intend it to be a long one right here because the movie that I have here, it really didn't have that much deep relationship information for me to dissect and put it out to the people. It probably did, but I didn't really want to give it too much thought because it really was a stupid movie to me, and it was worth only a Netflix movie. Also to note that not all of my relationship lectures will be of a movie, of a dissection of a movie. Sometimes it's just going to be a overall topic for me to explain and to really bring my relationship insights to the people through a lecture. So just keep that in mind. And also from here on, I thought about it. I'm not going to give my background on every single lecture, maybe every so often, but for the people who want my background, then they just have to go to my early lectures so that I can get straight to the point. All right, so right now, the movie that I'm going to dissect through in this lecture and provide you guys with the relationship aspect of it is the movie Daddy's Home. Daddy's Home is the newest movie that's out. Came out in Christmas, right before Christmas, the 24th. And it's still available as of now here, January 2016. January 11th, Monday. If you have not seen this movie yet, I advise you to go ahead and see that movie now before you listen to this lecture, because there are some spoilers in here. So stop this audio right now and go see the movie whenever you can, as soon as possible, before it goes out of theaters. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mention the storyline. It's a short storyline. It's a storyline about, it says, a mild-managed radio executive, Will Ferrel, you know, the funny guy, competes for the affection of his stepchildren when their freewheeling and freeloading father shows up. So what it is Will Ferrel, he plays Brad, and he's the stepfather of his stepchildren, and he's married to, I forgot the lady's name in the movie, her character, but they're married. So he had stepchildren, and they have not accepted him yet, and they don't even call him father. They call him Brad, which I feel like a father, even if he's the biological father, he needs to earn his right for his children to call him father or dad. That's what I say, in my opinion. Dad to me is like a privilege for a man, for a father to really have to be worthy of it, because just like he said, anybody can be a father, just like Brad said in the movie, anybody can be a father, but a dad is a different responsibility. And the difference, in my opinion, between a father and a dad is a father is a man who creates another human being through sex, either sex or even what do you call that? You know, the laboratory way. The laboratory way. That's the other way. That's a father. Any male can be that. And that's what it is nowadays. There's more fathers than dads. But dads are the ones who step up and really step up to the challenge and is really there for the children to help raise. That means support and raise the children psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. He's an overall whole character. He's not just pieces of a father. And more these days are pieces of fathers. They're not really stand-up men, including my father. He's not a stand-up man, and I had to stand up for my own self to develop my own self into a high-quality man beyond my father. So fortunately, I had the spirit side helping me out with this. If I wasn't able to perceive how to be a real man from the spirit side when they was giving me information, I don't know where I would be by now, because my mother damn sure could not be of support to me to how to be a man. My sisters, they was out chasing after other males because they had a missing father figure. So there was nobody else but me in the spirit side. So fortunately, I had spiritual guidance, and I listened to the spiritual guidance. All right. Most movies, if not all movies that include family life, what I've noticed throughout my years of watching movies in general, but especially dissecting them for my own relationship study, I've noticed that they all have a standard setup, a standard image within all of the families. And I call it the American family, the American dream family. And the American dream family, from my definition, is this: that they show in movies and also television series. You have the two parents. The two parents will usually have one or more children. The father at least has the major career, if not the major career, at least a job to bring in income, financial income for the family. Sometimes you'll have the mother who will have a job or a career, which in my opinion, that throws off, both of them having careers, that throws off the whole family structure. When you really get down to the grounded, higher spiritual overall picture of a grounded family. But maybe I'll go into that later. But let me get straight to the point. You have that family, and then they'll usually have a nice house in a beautiful, quiet neighborhood. The whole neighborhood, they're all united. They speak with each other, even if they do put up that illusion of, oh, everything's all fine with me and Brad. And then you got the next house. Everything's all fine with me and Michael. That's the what do you call it? The wife, where Michael is just beating the hell out of her and don't even give her no kind of affection. And all he's doing is just bringing in the money. He's not taking care of his family. But besides the money, he don't pay no attention to them because he's so obsessed with his career and his business, his job. And that's what I'm going to go into in my next lecture, hopefully the next one, telling people that you got to have a balance between your family life and your career. Because if not, then your family life is just going to go into crumbles. But that's how it is with a lot of people. They put up that illusion that everything's fine with their family. And me, I definitely don't do that at all. When people ask me how your family doing, how you and your family doing, I'm going to be like, I just tell the truth. Like, look, my family is fucked up, chaotic. Nobody's on the same page. Everybody just act like everything's okay. We still haven't sat down to have a discussion to figure out what is going on with us so that we can resolve our issues. So everybody's all over the place, and then they act like everything's fine. That's how it is with my family in my life, my personal life. So I just keep it real with people, because the more I keep it real with people, the better it is for me. So I just make sure that I focus on myself, developing myself to higher levels, so that if people do want advice from me, I know what the fuck I'm talking about. So that's that. So with this American dream image that Hollywood consistently portrays, their intention is to, and this is behind the scenes stuff, This is what I get from C.R.A and intuitively. What they're doing is they want to put this image into your head so that you can't perceive beyond that at all. And the average family, they accept this with them seeing it so often from the time that they were born, from the first time that they view TV and movies. They just assume that is the way to be. The way to be as far as having a romantic relationship and then having kids, the kids, the house, the vehicles, and then you got the nice job, and they think that, oh, that's the American way to be. And believe it or not, and I'm telling you from my own experience, both studying, observation, investigation, and intuitively, this is how a lot of American families live and they believe. And I know this too by just observing each of these families when they're in restaurants, everywhere. I mean, it's so many illusions that people put up. They project. That's why people, you got to get on your higher spiritual faculties. You got to get those activated so that you can perceive beyond what people are portraying, so that you can protect yourself, really, so that you'll be able to make better decisions on where to go, what to do, and what to say to people whenever necessary. Because if you just depending on your five senses, I'm telling you, it's going to be so easy for people to take advantage of you and put you in fucked up situations. But if you're operating on your higher senses, it's bam, you just know what people are getting ready to do, what they're getting ready to say, and you know if they're trying to shit you or not. So anyways, this American dream family, people have accepted it because it's been shown in front of their face ever since they were born, really. Ever since they were born, they've seen it everywhere. TV, movies, what do you got? Magazines. They see it in their environment. It's all over. So people just think that's the way to be. But however, it's not the only way to be. That's one way you can be. But whenever you become conscious of what's going on, and you're able to put your mind into manual mode, because most people of this planet, they're on automatic mode. They're not in manual mode, meaning they're not conscious. They're asleep. They're in a trance. And a lot of spiritually awakened people, or even the ones that's awakening, know what I mean by most people are unconscious. They're in a trance. They're like robots. And their programming comes from TV. That's why they call it TV programming, magazines, movies, and a variety of other places. And now these things, like I said in my last lecture, you can learn from these, and you can dissect and extract information from these places. But that's if you're able to put your mind in manual mode. That's when you're conscious and you can filter out all the bullshit. But most people, they're not on that manual mode. They're not conscious. So they just absorb the programming and then they just go along with the programming. I call it mindless conformity. Mindless conformity. They just conform with the way things are presented to them without even questioning them and really analyzing things around them. All right, so on to the next thing. I have the step parent process and what to be aware of. Now, this situation right here, a lot of people haven't sat down and really analyzed this step parent process as far as analyzing it to know what to do and what to be aware of. Because a lot of people, they just go with the flow and they just don't think about this process. So let me see here. If you're a single person, this is a process and some things to really be aware of. First things first, before you enter a relationship with another person, you have to check and be aware of if they have children or not. Some people, they'll hide it until they really get a connection with the other person, so they won't tell you if they have children or not. This is why having a high intuitive perception comes into play, because sometimes you can just know when people have children or not in their energy. This is the difference too. Some people have the energy in their auric field of having children. Others have that single no children energy. There's a difference. For me, I've observed the difference between when a person has children and when a person doesn't. And also, sometimes the person doesn't have a emotional and spiritual connection with their children. So that doesn't get incorporated into their auric field, the electromagnetic field. Now, see, this is some advanced shit. But every now and then I'll put some advanced shit inside the lectures. Even though I said that further lectures, I want to do more and more advanced stuff. But every so often I'll put some advanced stuff in my basic stuff. So their electromagnetic field that everybody has around them is called the auric field, AURIC. And go ahead and do your own studying of this if you don't have an understanding of this. So within that auric field is tons and tons of information. And if you have your higher senses activated, spiritual senses activated, that goes beyond your five senses, which we all have them. We have senses beyond our five senses. Most people have been programmed and accepted their program that never got past that programming to believe that they only have five senses. You know, the touch, sight, taste, touch, sight, taste, smell, crap. What's the fifth one? Yeah, y'all know what I mean. The physical senses. The five senses. But the higher spiritual ones, you got a whole lot more. You got clairsentience, and that's the empathic ability where you can just feel people's energy and you know how they're feeling. And it took me a long time to really comprehend this sense, because I used to feel that when people come around me, I used to feel that their fear was my fear. And this is how a lot of empathic people feel early on. They get confused. They think that other people's emotions are their own, but nope. Clairsentience is when you can sense other people's feelings so much on a deep level that you can get confused that the way that they're feeling is the way that you're feeling, but it's not always that way. So that's why you got to stop and analyze it. So that's clairsentience. Clairvoyance is being able to see things spiritually through your pineal gland, your third eye, which is your first eye. Really, that's your truthful eye. That's your spiritual eye. That's in your head, where you can see things spiritually, and you can see, and this is how the highly imaginative people, creative people, this is how we all operate. And this is everybody in general. You can get, once you have your higher spiritual faculties activated, your imagination increases. This is everybody. It's not just certain people. Your imagination increases. Your creativity increases. Your inner knowing, intuition increases. All of this. So that's that. I don't want to go into too much spiritual stuff. This is supposed to be relationship stuff. But in general, my relationship lecture series is going to include some spiritual information, because it goes hand in hand with relationships, whether you religious people and you purely physical people want to believe it or not. It goes hand in hand. Spiritual stuff with the physical. Okay, so I did get off the topic just a little bit. So back to the step parent process. So within a person's electromagnetic field is information about them. So this is how people, when they say they can read people, there's different types of reading people. There's different levels. The average person, when they say that they can read people, it's just on a mundane, physical reading. The body language, their actions, and stuff like that. But when you go higher than that, on a higher spiritual, energetic level, reading people is feeling out their energetic field, and you can sense a person's energetic field. Like when you got to get on a higher level, you can sense it even through the phone, their tone of voice, being around them, even if they're across the room, you can still perceive it. I'm telling you, it's some advanced shit, and I didn't really realize this until my higher senses started to get activated, and I started to really analyze, like, okay, how did this shit work? And it took me a long time to really get this, and I'm still learning this too. And even through pictures, just look at a picture of a person, and you can perceive a lot of information just by looking at the picture too. So you'll be able to tell the differences if the person has a child or not. Because they have it in their energetic field, they absorbed it. It's all in there. Your thoughts goes into your consistent thoughts goes into that information goes into the electromagnetic field also. So that's that. That's if you want to get past a person's illusion that they project in front of you in general, but especially if they're trying to hide if they're trying to hide if they have children or not. So that's one thing you have to consider if you want to step into a relationship with the person, because if they have children and you don't have children, if you're a single person, you're going to eventually take on that responsibility of guiding them, whether you want to admit it early on or not. It's going to be a responsibility that you're going to have to take on one way or another, whether either one of you admit it. So what I highly advise people do is, once you are aware that they have children, if you both have children or if only one person has children, before you get seriously involved with this individual, make sure that you get a great observation and investigation of the children. The reason why I really suggest this is because there are a lot of people who have rug rats for children. They're not highly intelligent and they're not highly spiritual children. So they're haywire. And if it's a single mother, a lot of mothers, if they have more than one child, they aren't able to really govern their children. It's too much for them to be able to sit down with them one-on-one and really put knowledge and maturity into their children so that their children can be balanced and focused. So that's why you have a lot of children who are psychologically unbalanced, because the mother wasn't balanced when she had the children, before she had the children, and even during the pregnancy. Because listen to this is some more advanced shit. When a mother has children, when the child is in the mother's womb, when they're in the belly, what the level of the mother's consciousness gets encoded into the child's DNA throughout the whole 9 months. The mother's consciousness, all of the information, all of her thoughts, her consistent dominant thoughts gets encoded into the child's DNA. So essentially, women are computer architects. So what they can do is what they're doing when they do have a child for 9 months inside of their body. They're literally programming their child. And everywhere they go, all of the music that they're listening to, all of the food that they eat, all of the beliefs that they have, they're passing it on to their children. So if the mother is a idiot, literally is a high-leveled idiot, she's going to program that into the child's DNA, and then the child is going to come out, unless the mother has a rare occurrence and has a high spiritual child who is a genius. And if the mother doesn't have the child in the hospital, because there's a difference, there's a major difference. And I investigated this and I know this for myself. There's a difference between a woman having a child outside of the hospital, whether it be at home, even in the forest, anywhere else, versus having her child in the hospital. There are two different results in the end, and having the child outside of the hospital is a high level result. You'll get a high level, and you pretty much get a genius if you don't have it in the hospital. The reason for this is all hospitals know what's going on, whether it be the nurses and the doctors. Some of them are conscious of these higher spiritual beings coming through the womb, the gateway of the mother, and the overall controllers of these hospitals. They know what's going on, and they know that us higher spiritual beings are supposed to come through, and we're supposed to change the way this physical realm is. But the controllers of this realm, the influencers of this realm, they don't want higher spiritual beings changing the way things are, because if they do, they'll rip the control from the influencers. And that's why they have these hospitals. They're pumping all of these chemicals into their children, the children of the mother. And then those chemicals, they affect the brain chemistry of the child. And that's one top reason why there's a lot of children with Down syndrome. They have a lot of psychological issues and brain issues, and even deformity. That's one major results of the hospital affecting these children. And just think, why does the nurse and the doctor really insist so hard to take the child away from the mother? Of course, they're going to say, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that. And then the average mother is going to just conform to it. They just go along with it and put in all their faith in their doctors and into the nurse. And that's because of their programming. It's a lot of psychological programming that goes into a person's life until they wake up from it and they cut the shit off and they override it. They're just going to keep going along with it. But you got to think, once the child is separated from the mother, you don't know what the fuck is going on. You literally don't know what's going on. And you don't know what room the child is going on unless you follow that nurse and that doctor or whoever takes it. And even if you do, there might be at some point where they say, okay, you can't see this. You're not supposed to go into this room, or yada, yada, yada. They're always going to find some way to separate the child from the parents. Overall, that's the bottom line. And they don't want you to know what type of chemicals is really going into the child and the effects of the chemicals. I'm just keeping it real with you. You can go ahead, check it for yourself. Go study it. Get to the bottom of it. And if this sounds like it really sounds strange to you, that's good, because it's new information for you that you need to go ahead and investigate for yourself. But I've seen the difference firsthand And a lot of the children that get born outside of the hospital, they are highly smart. And these are the children that I love speaking with, because it's like you can have like deep conversations with them, and you don't have to keep things on a low mundane level with them. You can just literally just talk about a lot. And they're highly articulate. When they come out highly articulate before all of the other children, that's one result that they really haven't been tampered with, or their spiritual side overrided all of the other chemicals. Because you can do that. Because for me, for a long time, I didn't know it consciously, but I my higher self, spiritual self, overrid all of those chemicals from birth, from that hospital crap. Because I was born in the hospital too, but some of us, we can override it. So it all depends on your spiritual activation and how things are supposed to be. So it depends. Back to what I was saying is, it's important to really investigate the children, because you especially nowadays, you got a lot of idiot children. So it's like you might really, really like the other person, but the other person has a lot of idiot children and they're not really smart. So, and they need a lot of parental guidance and parental nurturing. So it's like, if you're trying to really develop a strong relationship with the other person, but you got these other children keep coming into the picture, oh, mommy, 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 or daddy, 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 and you trying to get your romance on, it's really gonna be something that you got to deal with. You got to figure out a way to resolve it and deal with. So you got to really think about it before you step into a relationship with a person who has children in general. You got to investigate the person and the children. So if the person opens up to you, that's good. But then that's step one, investigating the person to really see if you are meant to be with each other, or if you really feel satisfied with that person to move forward. Then stage two is to see, check the children out. So that's that. So once you do that, then you got to develop yourself. You got to create a foundation with the children so that you can become worthy of being called that person's parent. Like I said earlier, you got to be worthy of it, because when you come into the children's point of view, into their family, a lot of children, they're from their perspective, you're an infiltrator. You're infiltrating their family, especially if they got an attachment to their parent. I'm telling you, this is serious. If a child has an attachment to their parents or parent, anything that comes into the picture, the family picture, that takes even a little bit of amount of attention away from the child, depending on the child's consciousness level, they're going to resent that other individual or object or whatever it is. They're going to resent it, and they're going to do whatever they can to keep that thing or person, to kick them out. And if they can't kick them out, they're going to make their life miserable. And you've seen it time and time again in a lot of movies, and you might even heard or seen it for yourself. Go back and watch whatever movie you can. And I'm trying to think if there's a movie that I can show that I can think of. Maybe it'll come through later, but there's certain movies where it's clear. And go ahead and put it into the comment section too, for the people to go check the movie out. Yeah, I can't think of one right now, but think of a movie where you have the stepchild and then you have the other person, the the person that the parent is dating or consider dating, and then look and see how the child resents the other person. So just give me an example of a movie. Put it in the comment section because I can't think of one right now. So that's one thing to really, really consider. So when you come in to the family thing, that's what you got to consider first early on. And you got to really tiptoe your way into the family. Make sure that you tiptoe your way into the family. Sure that you avoid barging in with commands. Early on, that is. Because you got to first create a foundation. You got to first think. Here we go again. You got to be strategic with this. Thinking. Using your higher mind. And you got to get out of your unconscious mode. That trance mode. And you got to think like, okay, now how do I want to be presented with the children? And what type of foundation do I want to create with them so that we can build on? What is the best way to do this? And just sit there by yourself and think about this. Because if you don't, and you just go in all willy-nilly, and especially if the child is a highly intelligent child and clever, they're just gonna overrun you. And especially if you don't have the intelligence and confidence, and that's the next thing that I'm gonna go ahead and no. The next process is after you find out the children, then you gotta consider and investigate if their biological parent is still in the picture, the family picture at all. If they are, then you gotta observe and investigate that person also, because that person might sometimes consider the other person as the infiltrator. So you got to consider that also, and that's again tiptoeing it and know your boundaries. That's it. Know your boundaries. One thing a lot of people don't do is they don't recognize their boundaries and think about the boundaries and step within their boundaries. So you got to really consider and observe the biological parent. If the biological parent is not in the picture, you still got to find some way. Well, if they're not in the picture, let me think about it. If they're not in the picture, that's good. But still, you got to consider that there's a chance. There's a chance that they can come into the picture. And you got to consider that. And when they do come into the picture for their children, they have a right to do it. But another thing to consider is, do they want to come in wholeheartedly for the sake of the children, or they're trying to get in with their mother again or their father again, whatever the situation is. Because that's one thing that people have to consider too. It's so much to consider when you're with this romantic relationship shit by itself with just two people. But when you bring children in, once I really investigated this shit, I'm like, oh my God, it's so much to consider. And if you're not on a high conscious level, you're just going to drive yourself nuts and get yourself into a tough situation. And that's what a lot of people do. The majority of people who get involved with relationships themselves, in romantic relationships themselves, and when they have children, overall, the majority of people, they don't consider the most major things to consider. That goes back again. They get those illusions that gets put into their mind. Those illusions that get put into their mind consistently, they accept it, and then they just go along with the program. That's why I call it mindless conformity. Mindless conformity. So when people have children, they create attachments. They create so many attachments that's really unnecessary but they choose to have children. If they choose to have children, they're creating these unconscious attachments that they're not aware of. So when they divorce or break up, that attachment is created with the biological parent. So with that said, that attachment being created with the parent, the biological parent, a lot of times what they'll do is, especially if they're immature, they'll use the children as their link to their ex. As you can see here in this movie, as in this film right here, what's his name? Well, I don't know. I forgot his name. But Mark Walhberg, he used his children as the link to get back into his ex-wife's life. So that's just a few examples of what you got to really consider regarding the biological parent before you go into the relationship with the other individual. But that's even if you are in the relationship already. There's some more stuff to consider. So take that into consideration right now and really start thinking about it right now. Even after this lecture, after listening to this, because most people don't even think about this on high levels. And I see here that I said that I didn't intend for this to be a long lecture, but every lecture always got added information that I need to include. So, and that's the reason why when I create my outlines for these lectures, I just put a few words or half of a sentence, and then I just go ahead and fill in the rest. Once I start talking, I just fill in the rest. So that's what I do. When I write out the lecture, I just do an outline, and then I just put in sentences of what I want. It's just a guideline. I just put in guidelines, and then I just speak off the cusp, from the heart, top of the head. And added information just comes through, so I can just fill in the rest. Because my intention was to have just like a 10 to 20 minute lecture, but all this extra information came through. So intuition and confidence. Intuition and confidence. Intuition, as I mentioned before, is the extra spiritual senses that we all have. Some of us have ours more developed, and we can perceive them on a higher, faster level than others because we've been more trained. We trained ourselves, or even if you have parents or somebody else to help train you, because some people go into different spiritual trainings to do this. Me, I learned mine on my own, and I've been perceiving this early on. It's just as the years passed, I've been focusing more on the intuition. And some people have it since they were younger because they come through with more spiritual energy and more of their senses activated. So intuition overall, like I said, it's the extra sense, and it's the inner knowing. The inner knowing where it's inner knowing of past, present, and future. And it's the inner knowing that something is true without any physical evidence. And it's better to experience this to really know what this means, to really have a strong comprehension of it. What I mean by this is an example of this is, and this is where I get a lot of my information from, a large portion of it, regarding my relationship information. And this is why I say that I can just be in the presence of a couple and then information just comes through. Their auric field is radiating information, and information just pouring through like, oh, okay, this couple is really this, and this. And I'm seeing beyond their projection that they're putting in front of me. That's intuition, where you can see beyond the physical. There's no physical evidence, but you just know what's going on. So that is intuition, and there is a lot more to intuition beyond that. There's so many factors. There's more factors than that, but that's just a good basic comprehension of it. So you can go ahead and study this for yourself. There's a lot on YouTube, and there's a lot of books that you can study for yourself to get a better comprehension of this. And now confidence. Confidence is having that strong, powerful feeling within yourself to really move forward with any form of action that you want and need to proceed with. And it includes saying something to someone or performing some kind of physical action. It's that driving force that gets you to go forward, proceed with something. This is highly important to have. These two things are highly important to have within a relationship. If you don't, to be successful in it, to be highly successful within it. If a couple fails to have both of these, then they're less likely to have a successful relationship, and it's going to be a rocky relationship, a lot of arguments. And remember, in my last lecture, I say that I mentioned the difference between a discussion and an argument. The immature people have arguments. Mature adults have discussions, and they resolve their underlying issues. So you have to have these two. And in this film, no one has both of these at all. What's his name? Mark Walhberg, his character, he had confidence, but it was more of a male bravado, immature arrogance than confidence. Brad, he had almost no level of confidence and no level of intuition at all. This dude was a complete idiot. And this is why I want to say to women that before you enter a relationship with a male, you have to really become aware of his level of confidence and intuition. There's a lot of men who are too scared to explore their feminine side because we all have a balance of male and feminine energy. That includes both males and females. Both women and men have both a feminine aspect and a male aspect of them. However, most people have been programmed to activate just one aspect of them. But it's balance. It's ma'at, balance of both. And that's where the intuitive side comes from us male. That's the feminine side of us. If a male is not balanced in both his feminine and male aspect of himself, then it's going to be an imbalance, and he's not going to really be able to perceive what's going on around him, and he's not going to be able to fully satisfy his woman. And that's why most men in relationships, they're not able to satisfy their woman, and there's a lot of arguments, and he's not aware of his woman's needs. So the average male, because he's stuck into his male aspect, he just thinks that, okay, I'm going to give her money, I'm going to give her physical affection, I'm going to hug her, kiss her, have sex with her, and then that's it. That's all I need to do. And if he has children, okay, just give them money, go take them to the mall, take them to a sports game, yada, yada, yada. And believe it or not, this is how most males think. And this is for the unconscious males, that is, because there are conscious males who are on a high conscious level and who really think these things out so that they can override their programming, their psychological programming. But speaking from the American point of view, being born here in America, me seeing this is what goes on a lot. Most males, they're stuck into their male bravado ego, and they're too scared to access their feminine side. And because the feminine side is highly, highly powerful. And that's why the controllers, the influencers of this society, they don't want men to be balanced. They don't want them to access their feminine side. Once I realized the power of the feminine side, I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to be in this a lot. And also, but at the same time, be in my male aspect. And this is the reason why I was able to prevent myself from homosexuality, because that's what a lot of guys, what happens with males who were raised by females. A lot of males who are raised by pure females, they absorb that feminine energy, and then that male figure is missing. So he doesn't have a male aspect image to see and to really absorb into his own overall consciousness. So what will happen was, what will happen, and especially considering that there's a lot of homosexuality being presented to young males to influence them everywhere, movies, TVs, magazines, they see it in schools, and then if they don't have a strong male figure in their life, they think that this homosexual behavior is the way to be. And I can see it a lot in a lot of these high schoolers and younger too, just by the way that they're walking. It's present. And their mother and their parents and their family, a lot of them, they don't want to admit it, but it's there. However, even if you have a male figure, it all depends on the situation. It all depends on if the person listens to their spiritual wisdom that comes through and also allows their spiritual self to balance them out. Because all of our spiritual all of our spiritual self, the spiritual side of us wants to balance us out in one way or another. And even the human physical body wants to balance itself out. But because of the way that society it has been created and the way it's run, it's a constant barrage of so many different things to keep people off balance. Psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, and damn sure physically. So that's why you have so much chaos that's going on and so many people unbalanced and so much destruction because people are not balanced. So for me, the way that I was able to overcome being raised by females and to not be stuck in the feminine aspect, and so that I can avoid having that switch in my walk and so that I can overall be balanced, is I allowed my spiritual self to override all of the garbage, the psychological garbage that I was under throughout my life. And I'm happy that happened, because now I'm able to be balanced and have both a male and female aspect of relationships and overall life, so that I can be the male that I was born to be, because I was born into this male body, so I'm supposed to be a male. And that's how it is for all of us who were born into that whatever physical body we were born into. But some people's DNA and psyche has been warped to perceive things differently. But that's a whole nother subject. So I just wanted to add that in there. So before you get involved with another individual, you got to make sure you got to check their level of intelligence, intuition, and confidence. Those are the top things you want to engage. And these two guys right here in this film, they don't have either. and it's just an illusion of confidence, but they are not high quality men at all. So I highly advise you women out there to avoid these type of men. And these are the type of men that society wants you to believe that it's okay to be involved with. So be conscious of this. Conscious of avoiding these type of men that's in this film. That is, I gotta make sure that I put that in there. The two guys that are in this film, these are the type of guys women that you don't want to be involved with. If you want to have a successful romantic relationship, and also especially if you want a successful family life, you want to avoid men like this and avoid them early on. And I'm telling you, with my own investigation, there's a lot of women who get involved with men like this, and then they regret it later on once they have children, and even when they get married, like years later, they're like, oh shit, I done fucked up. I don't know what to do. And then a lot of women, they just accept it. They settle for it because they don't want to start all over again. However, ladies, I'm telling you that sometimes it's worth starting all over again. Letting go of your relationship with the idiot and starting all over again. And because you're more conscious of what to avoid. And once you do your self-reflection, self-analysis, and self-development, as I mentioned in my last lecture, once you do that, you'll be on a much higher level next time around. And then you'll be able to choose a much better romantic mate to get involved with. So keep that in mind. And there are so many examples of immaturity in this film right here. Immaturity on the male. It's just immaturity in general. Yeah, in general with all the characters. So I don't really have to go into too many examples, but I want to give the example of immaturity in a low level of social awareness and confidence. The first one that I'll mention is the motorcycle scene, the bike scene. You remember where Mark Walhberg was first introduced, his character was first introduced at night, where he came in with the bike, and then Will Ferrell's character, Brad, he fronted like he knew how to ride a bike. And as soon as he started talking, I knew that, oh, all right, he don't know what he's doing. Here we go with the male bravado. Oh, I know how to ride a bike. Oh, and then he just goes into and he just starts to make up the information that he knows how to ride a bike. And then Mark Wahlberg, the idiot that he is, as far as the character, his character, the idiot that he is, and not having intuition at all, he believes it. Well, at least it appears that he believes it, and at the same time, if you really think about it, he could be playing the side of, okay, you said that you can ride, well then prove it. He could be doing that too, because yeah, that's sometimes that's what some people do. Because if a person projects that they can do something, but you know that they can't do it, the good way to really see if they can do it is what's the best way? What's the word I'm looking for? Damn, there's a phrase to get them to show and prove. Overall, for the lack of a better word, yeah, just to get them to show and prove. That's one way to do it, and then you can really see if they can really do it. But the immaturity on Brad's part is him even saying that he can ride a bike when he know he can't. Dumb idiot. And then he tries it the next morning to move it. That was stupid. And then the other thing is, I thought in order to move a bike, just move it forward. You don't need to turn the thing on. I thought you could just move it with your legs. Get on top of it, move it with your legs, and then just move it to the left. That's all he needed to do. And that's all his mother, or not his mother, but his wife, which a lot of men who have a low level of confidence and who really didn't have a strong mother figure in their life, their wife, whether it be consciously or unconsciously, assumes the role of mother in the male's life, the husband or boyfriend's life. This is why I always say everybody needs to do their self-reflection, self-analysis, and self-development before getting involved romantically with anyone, so that they can resolve their childhood issues. Because in this film here, Brad's wife really is his mother. He's just walking around listening to her, and he's not thinking on himself and being the strong male that he needs to be to guide his family and to be balanced. But he just being a fucking idiot and a fucking chump overall. This is how a lot of men in relationships are. So that was one example of immaturity. The other example was the skateboard scene. Just think that there it is, male bravado trying to show up who's better. And Brad did not need to do that at all. He did not need to show up at all, but he was an idiot. The skateboard scene I'm talking about in their backyard with the half pipe. Just think about that right there. That's just pure ego. And I'm not even going to say male ego. That's just ego in general. That was not necessary. I want to mention too is, if you really look at it, Brad and his wife, they didn't really have a strong relationship in general. They didn't have a strong communication line between each other that a relationship requires if they want a high level of success. Number one, they didn't have, and overall, they accepted that American dream family illusion. And if you wake up to this and you know what that American dream family illusion is, this is a great example. It's right there. They fell into it, and then they wasn't a conscious couple. They were a unconscious couple, which the majority of the couples that exist here in America that I observed, and also that's really everywhere that I can see everywhere. The majority of them, they are unconscious couples. They're going along with their psychological programming that society programs people, and they wasn't conscious in their relationship. Because if they were conscious in their relationship, and if they both were a strong, developed team, they would first from jump know what Brad's intentions were. And even if they didn't know from jump what was his intentions, they would eventually figure it out, and then they would have a contingency plan to figure out, like, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to, number one, get him out of the picture regarding being here in our home. That is the number one thing that Brad, if he was a real high quality man, he would knew from jump to avoid keeping that other man in their house consistently. Let them come in here and get their children, then get the fuck out of my house. And that's it. Don't let that other male stay into your house that long enough to develop any kind of romantic connection with your girlfriend or your wife. This is information for you people out there who are step parents or about to be step parents, and you need to consider this. Avoid keeping the other person in your home in alone time with their ex, because the longer, this is how it happens in general, the longer the person has alone time, even if alone time or not, but just experience time with their ex, unless the ex has the strong relationship foundation with their current situation and they're on a high psychological level, so that they can block out the ex's maneuvers to try to get into their life, unless that happens. But other than that, there's a likely chance that they can start developing romantic feelings with their ex. So that's something to highly, highly consider. And that's what Mark Wahlberg's intention was to do in the movie. And I already knew that this happens consistently a lot. So this is something to consider. So that's that. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. That was my lecture number 4. And I hope this is new information to a lot of people. And all of my lectures, I advise you to listen to at least twice so that you can really comprehend this information, so that you can incorporate this within your own life and make better decisions in the future. All right. Thank you very much. Like, comment, and share this video, this audio, if you can. And until next time.